Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the JuiceBox presented by Lock City, where we are escaping reality one lock at a time. You got Munz and Wighty here with another UFC episode, but before we dive in, if you haven't already, join us at wop.com/lockcity, where we are running a nice deal right now. Use code SPRINGFEVER to save 70% off your first 3 months, which applies to both our weekly and monthly subscription packages. So this week we have a UFC fight night with Henry Cejudo and Song Yadong as our main event. Like I said before, as always, I got Wighty here with me to get into the main card of this event and go over each fight. Wighty, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. Just got off work a little bit ago. Super excited to dive into this card. I think we're pretty similar on this one, in for some good fights. So excited to get started.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so first fight we have Alonzo Menafield and Julius Walker. So Alonzo comes into this one with a record of 15-5-1, 8-5-1 in the UFC. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but his last 2 were both KO losses. So he's not looking too good, but he's trying to rebound with a win in this one. Julius Walker is coming into this one with an undefeated 6-0 record as he makes his UFC debut. All 6 of his pro wins have come from KO or submission, which is quite impressive. Should be a pretty interesting fight.
Yep, I'm super excited for this one. I think we lie the same way on this one, but we'll get into it a little bit and kind of explain what we're looking at here. I think, like you said, Julius Walker's UFC debut, all finishes. He's appearing on a main card, so that speaks to how exciting he is. Albeit it's the opening fight on it, but still that speaks volumes. He's obviously up against a good fighter, but like you said, Menafield, he's lost his last 2 fights, and he's essentially a brawler. He's not entirely one-dimensional, but his style of fighting is brawling. I think Julius Walker is probably more well-rounded. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. He's 6'4", so he's a big guy. He's a pressure grappler. I think we'll see some pressure here. I don't think we've seen Menafield perform super well against that style of fighting, so we'll see how this plays out. If Menafield's able to stop takedowns, he might have a decent chance, but I think we got to go, or at least I got to go Julius Walker on this one.
Yeah, this is it's going to be an interesting fight. Like you said, Alonzo's a brawler, so this one they both have the ability to finish their opponents, which could happen in this one. Feels like Alonzo's on the come down. Those 2 KO losses, those are hard to come back from. 1 KO loss is hard to come back from, but 2 back to back, like that's really hard. So yeah, I'm sitting with the JuiceBox Julius Walker to take the win in his UFC debut. I mean, he's only been a pro fighter for less than 2 years now, but being on the main card, like you said, in his first UFC fight speaks volumes. So yeah, I'm riding with the JuiceBox as well.
Yep, only right we take the JuiceBox.
Yes, sir. All right, next fight we have John Silva and Melsik Bagdasaryan. John Silva enters this one with a record of 14-2-0, 3-0 in the UFC. Guy's KO'd all 3 of his opponents since joining the UFC. No surprise, he has 11 KO and TKO finishes under his belt. He's got that Brazilian power. Melsik has a record of 8-2-0. He's 3-1 in the UFC. He was submitted in his 1 loss, but he's rebounded and he's coming off a decision win in his last bout. He's got wins by TKO and decision, none by submission. In fact, his 2 losses are by submission, so it's pretty worrying looking at him.
Yeah, this one for me it's an obvious John Silva pick for me. I was thinking Gene Matsumoto, who I'm not taking. Spoiler. Silva's a great striker. He's strong on his feet. He loves to fight. Bagdasaryan hasn't fought in the UFC since 2023. Prior to that, he was fighting about once a year, so not overly active. This one for me is a comfortable parlay piece. I'm good with Silva money line on this. I know it's super favored it. He's minus 600, so you're not getting much value there. Obviously, you're not going to take this as a straight bet, but if you want to juice up a parlay, I think this is a safe bet.
Yeah, like you said, Melsik hasn't fought since 2023, so Lord only knows if he's improved on his ground game or ground defense since his last fight. But you know my rule about the Brazilians, I don't go against them, especially when a fight's as lopsided as this. You said the odds were minus 600, so I'm riding with the Brazilian. I probably wouldn't take a money line just because the odds are not worth it. I do think we'll see him submit Melsik, so if anything, I'll probably take Gene Silva to Gene or John Silva. I don't know. I'll take him to submit Melsik. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I like that. I think double chance is probably even a good parlay piece. We could see a knockout. He's got a couple knockout victories. I know we got that knockout double chances parlay piece on the UFC best bet sheet. So I think we're definitely looking for a finish here.
Yeah, definitely going to see a finish in that one, I believe. All right, next up we have Rob Font and Gene Mitsamuto. So Rob Font comes into this one with a record of 21-8-0, being 11-7 in the UFC. He's a veteran. He's been fighting in the promotion since 2014. He was on a rough two-loss fight streak, but since then he's rebounded with a decision win in his last fight. Gene Matsumoto is coming into this one with an impressive record of 16-0, being 2-0 in the UFC, obviously. He has a notable, impressive win over the first ever two times tough champion, Brad Katona, which is something to consider when looking at this fight.
Yeah, I that is that Matsumoto. He's tough. I think this one it has a little bit of confusing odds for me. I'm surprised to see Rob Font as an underdog in this one. I think this will be a really even fight. I know it opened up around like plus 200 for Font. It's since crept down to about plus 140, plus 130 in some instances, which I think is better priced. Biggest factor in this one for me is that Matsumoto stepping in on short notice for probably the biggest fight of his life so far. And although he's undefeated, I think he might get checked here. Rob Font's only 3 losses in the last little while were to Figgy by decision, Sandhagen by decision, and Cheeto Vera by decision. So all decisions, all elite fighters. I don't necessarily put Matsumoto in that same category. He could very well develop into that, but at this point, relatively unproven, 16-0. I don't know. I don't see him dropping a decision loss, Rob Font. I don't see him dropping a decision loss to Matsumoto here. I don't think Matsumoto is gonna finish him. Font's coming up over a win over a Kyler Phillips, I think, most
Yeah.
recently, and then Adrian Yanez prior to that. So those are both up and coming prospects. I think we see another check here. I think he's going to take down Matsumoto.
Yeah, I mean, everything points to Rob Font in this one. He's got the advantage in height and reach. He's taken an opponent who's accepting this fight last minute, I believe, with only like a few days' notice. It's tough. It really is tough. I think the odds are favoring Matsumoto for a reason, because something isn't sitting right with me about Rob Font. I mean, the Brazilians, like I said earlier, they're not one to take lightly. I got a strict rule with them, even when they're taking a fight last minute with a guy who's young, hungry. He's got 16 pro wins, and he's got something to prove here. So I think I think we see Matsumoto do it. He's been talking big talk, saying he's going to deliver the rare finish over Rob Font. So we could see a finish as well. But I'm taking Matsumoto money line for sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, they both look good on the scales. I think this is going to be a good fight.
Yeah, yeah. Could bite me in the ass, but we'll see. I guess we'll see as time goes on. Okay, next up we got the co-main event. We got Brennan Allen and Anthony Hernandez. So Brennan Allen comes into this one with a record of 24-6-0. He's 12-3 in the UFC. He's coming off a tough decision loss to Nasruddin Imavov in his last fight, which broke a pretty crazy 7-fight win streak. Anthony Hernandez, on the other hand, comes into this one with a record of 13-2-0 with one no contest. He's 7-2 in the UFC. He's on a current 6-fight win streak, quite impressive, and his most recent win is a TKO against Michel Pereira, which is even more impressive.
I'm about 50-50 on this one. I
Yeah.
think I remember you taking Brandon Allen. I could definitely see that happening. I know Hernandez won the first fight between these two, which was a while ago, so he's probably hoping to replicate some of those same successes, but to be determined. Brendan Allen's obviously a lot better since then. Was on a nasty win streak before that loss there, so obviously a great fighter. I think Fluffy's probably more creative on offense and might find success both standing and probably on the ground as well, but I could see the exact same thing for Brendan Allen. I think Hernandez could outwork him. I'm giving him a little bit of an edge there. I don't think we're going to see a finish in this one necessarily. I think we're in for another great fight here. And again, pretty 50-50, but I went with Hernandez on the call the card sheet. I don't think this would be one that you would want to put into a parlay or anything. If you're betting this one, odds are, I mean, pretty pretty shifted now that I look at them. I was going to say pretty even, but not the case. I wouldn't throw this one into too many parlays though. I feel like this one could probably go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Hernandez's last fights right now. Like the guy, he's got the TKO over Michel Pereira, submission over Roman Kopilov, TKO over Edmund Sheboyzin,
Yep.
submission over Marc-Andre Barrio. Like the guy's like some pretty notable names under his belt getting wins over. It's virtually even looking at the tail of the tape. I mean, Brendan Allen has a slight height advantage, and he's 2 years younger. But other than that, it's pretty even. And like you said, it's going to be a tough one, uh, one to keep off the parlay. But holy crap, the odds! Wow, they really don't think Brendan Allen's going to win.
Yeah, I was surprised. I guess Fluffy's getting a little bit of an advantage here because they know that he's won the first one, obviously. But yeah, minus I think 270 it was at. I don't know what it's still currently at there, but yeah, that's not priced fairly. I think this is a little bit closer to like a minus 150, minus 160 type of realm.
Yeah, they got Hernandez minus 320, Allen plus 245. It's pretty insane in my opinion. There might be something we're not seeing here. Definitely taking into consideration not only the win way back that he has over him, but also the 6 fight win streak that Anthony Hernandez is on. I
Yeah,
think they're taking that into consideration a lot with these odds. But
yep.
I think we see Brendan Allen take it, to be quite honest.
Definitely getting value there. I think it's probably not a bad single bet. Allen at plus 245, you said it's at now. I think there's definitely value there if you want to throw half a unit or a unit on it. But yeah, I wouldn't anchor this necessarily on a variety of parlays.
No, probably not. Maybe just call the card. But like the guy was headlining fight the 2 fight nights before. He won both of them, and on the one fight night he didn't headline, he lost. Like the guy, he was pushing to go for the belt. So yeah, I think we see him get his revenge in this one. I'm all in with Brendan Allen.
This will be a good one.
Definitely going to be a good one. All right, time to take a look at the main event. We have Henry Cejudo and Song Yadong. So Cejudo's coming into this one with a record 16-4-0, 10-4 in the UFC since joining in 2014. We got another veteran coming back in here. He's coming off 2 decision losses, Aljo and Marab, the 2 best friends, and now he's being put up against Yadong. Yadong comes into this one with a record of 21-7-1. He's 10-3-1 in the UFC since joining in 2017, but he is also coming off a loss to Peter Yan in his last fight.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be another really good one. I think the last 3 fights on this card we're pretty blessed with. And I'd love to pick Cejudo here, but I think there's a couple of key factors that are definitely swinging me toward Yadong.
Mm-hmm.
So Cejudo's 38 and in the bantamweight division, which is tough. He obviously retired for a few years, came back, and like you said, he lost to Aljo and then lost to Marab. I think Aljo and Marab at those times were probably better than a current Song Yadong, obviously, but I think that puts a good amount of mental toll on anybody, even an Olympic champion like Henry Cejudo. I think Cejudo's probably going to struggle with takedowns here. Song Yadong's got good takedown defense. In Cejudo's last fight, we saw him get manhandled and carried around the octagon on Marab's shoulders. So I don't think Cejudo can outstrike Yadong. I think Yadong's probably going to do fine here with his takedown defense. And if Yadong doesn't get a KO finish here, I definitely like him by decision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Henry was on a 6 fight win streak before his 2 most recent losses, and he retired
Yep.
too during that time. And Yudong fought quite a handful of times since then.
Yeah, 9 times since then.
Yeah, 9 times. Yeah, that's what it was. He's younger, as you said. Like the guy's Henry's 38. He's got the height advantage, the reach advantage. One thing we did see was Henry just smoking up on a podcast interview a few days ago, which was pretty funny. Not something to raise huge concern, but I think we're seeing him set up to take his second exit from the UFC. Like you said, he's 38. Yadong's 11 years younger than him, has the advantage in every way possible physically. Yeah, I think we see it end early. I think Yadong takes this one easy from Henry.
Yeah, I would agree here. Henry didn't look good on the scales either.
No.
I mean, he made weight. He came in at exactly 135, but he didn't look ripped by any means or confident by any means. So
Yeah.
I think mentally he's checked out, and I would agree. I think he's about to retire a second time.
Yeah, I think he's just doing it for the money at this point. All right, guys. Well,
But
that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say we could see him get cut.
Oh, he's definitely gonna get cut if he loses this. If he doesn't retire, I think he's done in the UFC.
Yeah, I'll get
Dana
a
is
pity
not
retirement.
shy of cutting fighters lately. Like we just saw him cut Rosenstrike after what, one loss? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
crazy. Well, all right, guys. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, like I said, wap.com/LockCity, we're running a special 70% off your first 3 months using code SPRINGFEVER. I suggest getting on that before the sale is done. We got the best bets that's going strictly to the premium Discord. We might feel generous tomorrow and give it out, but you never know. So be safe. Get into the Discord on the subscription, and we'll see you guys in there. Good luck on your bets.